G'day all, it's Colin from PCTLC and thanks for joining me. In this video we're going to be having a look at Epiphany, Gnome Web, Web Browser, Web 42, aka Epiphany. Yes, we're going to be looking at Web 42, the default web browser that comes with the Gnome desktop. We did a Linux Saloon exploration last week and I used it mostly last week. I'm just going to run through my findings on Web 42. So let's check it out. So Web 42, let's check it out. Let's go to the About Web 42, powered by WebKit GTK 2.36.0. So having used Web 42 for a week, most people probably know it as Epiphany. It's got plenty of names, this browser. Just going to run you through some of the things I found with Web 42, whether they be positive or negative. I'm just going to take you through my discoveries from the last week. So normally when I open a YouTube video, I will open in a new tab. And as you can see, the tabs are sort of split in half of the screen. So they seem to equally separate tabs up top here. If there's no tab there at all, then no tabs are showing. So you'll notice that the whole screen drops down when you open a tab. So let's do that. Open link a new tab. This is one of my favorite singers, Muriel. Now I've got the sound off. Now I do find it takes a little bit longer loading time, although my internet being wireless, loading times can be quite lengthy at the best of times. But I noticed on Web 42 seems to take a little bit longer. On some occasions, and very random occasions throughout the last week using Web 42, there would be no sound. I know I've got that muted at the moment, but just normal opening up a YouTube video in another tab, there'd be no sound. I would have to close the tab and then I'd have to open a new tab again, and then the sound would be working. That happened on several occasions. Not sure what that's all about, but that was my experience. I don't know whether anyone else has had an experience like that using this browser. Now, one thing I noticed is when it's in full screen, if I scroll down with the mouse, it doesn't move. Now, if you have a look at when you're in Google or Firefox, when you're in full screen, you can scroll down to the comments or to check the video show notes from the person who's made the video. And I found that annoying because now you've got to drop the screen down and then you can scroll down. But in Firefox and Google Chrome, it's a bit different. Don't know about other browsers, but this one definitely, I found that you couldn't scroll down. Now, scrolling in YouTube doesn't seem to be too bad in YouTube, the scrolling. But if we go to my bookmarks and go to Linux News and let's go to OMG Ubuntu, that is one full scroll of the mouse as much as I can each time. And that is very slow. Now, I was also using this on my Surface Go. Now that's got the touchpad. Now on the touchpad, completely different experience, very fast and smooth scrolling. So it's completely different on the touchpad as opposed to using the mouse on the desktop. Now going back to the bookmarks, I have to arrow back and then scroll back up to favorites. And if we go to YouTube and we go to Audio Library. Now the other day I was looking for some music through Audio Library. And you just click on the songs and you listen to them. That actually crashed on me within Web 42. So that was another experience of mine as well. So I've got a home button here. So you can, I think, so that leads me into preferences. Let's check out our preferences here. It's got an ad blocker, blocks pop-up windows. You got some home pages here. You can have a blank page, most visited pages or custom page. I've got DuckDuckGo as the custom. Downloads, you can ask where you want to save it on download or save to downloads folder, which is what I've got there, or whichever other folder you want to save it to. You can choose your search engine, or you can add a search engine if you know what you're looking for, I suppose. And you got your usual start in incognito mode, restore tabs on startup, mouse gestures, switch immediately to new tabs. That probably should be on. I normally have that on. Spell checking and system languages. Privacy, you've got intelligent tracking prevention, website data storage, Google search suggestions, clear personal data, the usual stuff there, passwords, remember passwords, and appearance, custom fonts, font style, and some custom style sheets, JavaScript, and default zoom level. So as you can see, not a huge amount of preferences and tweaks to happen within Web 42. It's quite a simple browser really at the end of the day, and all you've got up here is back and forward buttons, your refresh button, a home button, and a new tab button. Now I believe the home button can be turned off probably. So if you click on these ones here, most visited pages or blank page, the home button disappears. But if you go to custom, then your home button is back again, like so, to duckduckgo.com. And you got the usual suspects up here, the full screen, find, and if you have a look on the far left hand side, the mouse tip is way over there. Print, zoom levels there, and your new window, new incognito window, reopen closed tab, history, Firefox sync, import and export, about web we've seen, help, keyboard shortcuts. We can go through that real quick. So you can pause that on each page if you wish to look at it a bit longer. So now what we're going to look at is syncing and web applications. So if we go to bookmarks and we head to, let's say, go back to Linux News, OMG Ubuntu, everyone's very familiar with that. Now if we go to this menu here and we select install site as web application, let's do that. You can rename it to whatever you want. I'll leave it as that, I'm okay with that. And we just hit the create button. Now if we close the browser and we look for OMG, there it is there. Click on that or press the enter button, whichever way you like to do it. And that opens up in its own web application. So you don't have to go searching through your bookmarks, which is not even showing here. So you know you're using it as a web application installed by Web 42 because there's no bookmark showing up there next to the menu. Let's just open Web 42 back up. Back to Linux News, and I've got quite a few news places that I go to here. Distro Watch is another one that I normally check to see what's been released today or this week, last week, and you could do the same for that. This is another way of doing it. If you've got sites that you visit on a regular basis, so I'll just call that Distro Watch, get rid of the rest of the stuff, and just click create. And then it's better if we close this. Look for Distro Watch, there it is there. And it'll open it up in its own application. Now, I was saying yesterday on Linux Saloon how good I found this install as web application feature within Web 42 because of banking. But what I've found is I must have actually done banking using my KeyPass, and that took me straight to the banking site rather than using a web application, because I was messing around with it again today. And what I found was, and I'm going to try and explain this without logging into my bank, because you don't really want to log into my bank to explain this. Well, actually, let's open up one of the apps anyway. So let's open up DistroWatch. They've got a lot of links in DistroWatch, so let's do that. Now, this is opening up in its own application. Now, it may be a security thing with the bank, and that wouldn't surprise me. But when it comes to, let's just say I'm clicking on, in my bank, I've got a lot of these sorts of things, tabs. Now, when I open a tab, packages, let's go to package releases. Now, when I click on that link, what it would do is open Web42 up in another window and ask me to log in again. Thought that was slightly strange behavior. Must be some kind of security thing. So the way I could have done that is every tab that I wanted to go to, whatever links were under that tab would all work, but I would have to make many entries within the menu. So I'd have to have a tab for my home page, a tab for checking out bills and upcoming payments and so forth, and log into each individual one, which is a little bit unrealistic when you just want to go to your bank and just be able to click on all the links and do everything in one go. I sort of found out that wasn't ideal for my banking. I've got another online bank that does work okay in the web application itself. That's not too bad, but my normal bank has a lot of links, and it was a bit unrealistic to use that web application for that, which is unfortunate because I think in this browser here, I quite like the way it just implements that. If I was to use my key pass as well, I can use my key pass if I set my default system browser to Web42. So I could do that. So if I went to default applications and set web, so if I went to my key pass and opened the URL there, it would open up in web. It's not a web application as such, so it's not like a built-in app on the system. It's actually open in the browser as normal. You can see the bookmarks there. Then I can copy and paste my passwords from KeyPass, and then the bank will work fine for that, not a problem. But as far as using it as a web app, I thought it was working okay, but I must have been doing it this way from KeyPass, I think, the first time, and I must have thought I was using it, the web application itself. So that information was probably wrong. That was one of the positives I found with web yesterday at Linux Saloon, which was incorrect information, but at the time I thought it was right, but it actually turned out to be not correct at all, which I found out this morning. Now, if we go to Open Application Manager, it'll have these lists of applications or web applications that you do have installed, and they show up here, and you can manage them. There's not much you can manage. It's just basically delete. You cannot change the names or anything like that. So once again, on that level, very simple and basic. You cannot, there's a lack of flexibility in those areas. If you want to change the name, you probably have to delete it and start again. I will delete that and delete that. And if I was to go to back here and look for DistroWatch, you can see it's not there anymore, and neither is OMG Ubuntu. Very simple implementation there. Good enough if you're just doing simple web browsing and you don't want nothing overly complicated. I can see Web42 being great just for that. So if you install the Gnome desktop, you've got web browser there. Out of the box, you can just go ahead and do some simple things. And if there's places you visit on a regular basis, as there's only a few of them, you can install them as web applications and they'll work just fine. In the Gnome desktop, adding the web applications here is probably a lot quicker than dealing with bookmarks, which is what we're going to be looking at next, is the bookmarks. I synced my Firefox account, which you can do. Where was that? Yes, here. Firefox sync. So I logged into Firefox. I've now logged out. I was messing around with the bookmarks, trying to add tags and things like that, and it looked to me like it just kept adding things, so I switched it off. I closed the account. They're already in there. I thought it was doubling and tripling up on accounts. Multiple amounts of these reminders that come from somewhere, and they were like 4 or 5 of them there. So I switched that off, and then I sorted out my bookmarks and I added them into tags. Otherwise, you're dealing with them here. Now, these ones are not in alphabetical order. However, your tags are. So no matter what you name your tags, they're in alphabetical order. But these ones are not. So that makes it really hard to go through and sort out your bookmarks. So for example, let's go to the top here. Let's just say Void Linux. It's probably their web page. So I have to go to the gear icon. I have to make a tag, which I did, which would be Linux distros, like that. That's where it is. Now I can add it to favorites, and you can click on as many as you like. It'll show up in every tag if you want it to. So you can do it that way, or you can just remove. So I have to do this with each one. You cannot do bulk moving around with Web42 bookmarks. You've got to work with each individual bookmark, and that's how it synced up with Firefox. It was painful to go through. It's all been done. So I've got them all in here, and then you've got a tag with all of them. So whatever I've deleted is not showing up there anymore. So you can just click on one, remove it, and it's gone. But as you can see, there's not many of the icons showing up. So you're best to start from scratch. And the other thing I found was when I was trying to hit this gear icon, quite often I would hit the scroll bar and scroll down and I lose my way. So I find that scroll bar is way too close to those gear icons. As you can see, you only have to just get a little bit too far over and they're overlapping each other. So I found that to be annoying. So that scroll bar really needs to have some sort of gap there between that and the gear icons. And it would be nice if you could somehow bulk rename these within here. Maybe if this opened up inside here rather than over here. So you don't have to be traveling backwards and forwards, because it was painful to do all these bookmarks because I've got hundreds of them. So I find that a little bit clunky in the way that works. Very simple, but also clunky at the same time. So like I said before, being a simple web browser, you'd probably only want to use it for simple things, not your day-to-day, everyday things that you'll be going through all the time. But if you're using it just for the few favorites that you're accessing on a regular basis, then that's fine. Now, the other thing we're going to quickly look at is the import and export. What I did was I exported bookmarks and it exports them as a HTML. So I think I saved that somewhere, documents. I'm not sure where I saved it, but we can call that Web42 bookmarks, for example. Save that in documents. Bookmarks successfully exported. Now that's fine, but when I went to put this onto my tablet and tried to add the bookmarks, so what I did was go to import and export and import bookmarks. Now it's got this GVDB file, but I did the HTML, choose file. Now you can see that's crashed. So now I have to go to system monitor. Actually, it's Epiphany I'm looking for, not Web42. So it'll show up as Epiphany. Go to Epiphany, end process. Now, that's the first time I've tried adding a bookmark on this one. I only did it on the Surface Go. It was the same behavior, it just crashed completely. So I found that the alternative to that was to go to Files, Show Your Hidden Files, .local, .share, Epiphany, and then under Epiphany you've got this bookmarks GVDB. So what I'm going to do is make a new folder and call that Web42 bookmarks I'll call that all. So I'm going to copy this into here and paste. Right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trash that one. And now we'll open web. And if we now have a look at bookmarks, there's no bookmarks. So if we add a bookmark, say if we go to DistroWatch, go to DistroWatch, click on the star button, give it a name, delete the rest of that. Now it's got favorites here, or at this point you can add a tag. So this one we'll put in favorites, and that's all we have to do. We don't press enter. We don't have to confirm anything. We've just renamed that. I'm happy with the favorites. That's it. It's done. So if we go back home and then we go to bookmarks, and under favorites we've got DistroWatch. So we go to OMG Ubuntu. We click on the star button. Just rename it first. OMG Ubuntu. We'll put that in favorites as well, and that's it. We don't have to confirm anything. And then if we have a look there, we've got those two in favorites. So if we go to tags, it doesn't call it favorites yet because we don't have any other tags. So let's just go somewhere else. So we go to YouTube and make that a favorite as well. So I'll put that in favorites. Well, actually, no, I have to click on favorites button. That's why the favorites is not showing up. Okay, so they're actually just being under all. So we can add it to favorites. That's done. So if we go to tags, that's now under favorites. Okay, let's just say we go to Linux Mint homepage. We click on the star button again. We make that, we call that Linux Mint. In this case, we add a tag and we'll call it Linux distros. We add that and that's it. Then we go to here and then we've got favorites and we've got this tag of Linux distros. Now these ones here, we can rename this and we can give it a tag. We can call it Linux News. I normally call those Linux News. We add that. It's all automatically highlighted for that one. And that's it, done. So now if we go to there, we've got tags, we've got Linux News and Linux distros. So you can add it as a tag when you're here, or you can add it as a tag later on under the gear icon, or you can just select Linux News. That one goes into Linux News, done. So that now we've got the tags happening and we've got favorites happening. And then we've got all. This will list every bookmark that you've got. And as you can see, the icons are working quite nicely there once you start working with it from scratch. Now, if we want to remove these, we have to go to this gear icon and remove. Remove, remove, remove. Now we've got no bookmarks. So if we go to here, we've still got tags there. So those tags have been created and those tags have stuck. Tags. Okay. Remove that. No bookmarks. So the tags are not showing until you add a bookmark at least. So we've got no bookmarks now. So the other thing is if you find that the import and export, this one here, import and export, is not working for you, well then you can pick up under your hidden folders, .local, share, Epiphany. You can grab this one here and you can save it to a USB or on your local network somewhere, whatever. And then if you've got another device that you that's running Web42, then just put it in, just copy this folder and put it in there. So if we trash this one, and then I copy this one from one computer, say, for example, copy that into here under Epiphany and paste it. Once we open that up, then all our bookmarks are back. It's as simple as that. So if you're having a problem with import and export, that's the best way to do it. But if you're a little bit OCD over the icons there, then you're best to start from scratch. Probably starting from scratch is easier because I probably wouldn't use this as a... I find it a good web browser just to, say if I just had favorites alone and I visit these places quite regular, then, you know, I could use it for that and probably a few more. And probably a few more tags. This many, I would think is a bit unrealistic to work with, to be honest, but just depends on your patience. But yeah, I find the bookmarks not as easy to work with as the other browsers, but the other browsers are made to work with that. Web42 sticks to the simple philosophy, I think, when it comes to the Gnome desktop itself. They seem to be simplifying things, and Web42 was no exception to that. So yes, that was Web42, or web browser. Did use it all last week, like I said. I can appreciate the simplistic side of this browser. Having used it all last week, I did find it actually less distracting. A lot of the other web browsers, you've got tabs all over the place. You've got your bookmarks everywhere, and your file menu and all your menu categories up the top on some of them. You can hide those, I know. I appreciated the simple interface that it has, and there's less distractions. So I just found it quite pleasing to browse on it, to be honest. Could I use it on a daily basis? Probably not. I still think it's got a little bit of work to be done. So I had a few crashes and the sound issues with YouTube and so forth. It's a lot better than what it used to be, and I did enjoy using it. I did find it quite pleasing to browse in such a simple interface, less distractions and so forth. I probably couldn't use it on a regular basis, but I can appreciate it being at a level of a web browser out of the box by default with the Gnome and desktop. That's an advantage, and that's pretty handy. Anyway, that was Web42. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting and informative, and thanks for watching.